That is proper team management.
Tony, if you want to take, you're going to take this
minute and a half.
I
the screen right from the beginning.
Yeah, let me go ahead and do that. That's a great idea, Pete.
Okay.
So
Welcome, everybody. Good morning. We've got several coming on. Happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome to our coffee and conversation.
Is the PowerPoint showing?
Not yet, Tony.
Okay, hold on.
If you join early, you get all the behind the scenes stuff. This is like going on live on NBC, but before we get live.
Okay.
We've got about another minute. Yep, Tony, your screen is sharing now, which is awesome.
Hey.
All right.
Morning. We've got about less than a minute left, and we'll go on and get started. And as we're waiting, I will go on and share again. You guys will be muted since we have several that will be joining our call today. There is a chat box. If you can find that feature, should be at the bottom. A little message button that you can use for all questions that you want to ask throughout. We'll open it up maybe a few times throughout, and then toward the end to answer any questions that come through. So be able, know that you can use that chat box that's available. We have got about 30 seconds left, so let's go on and get started. Like I said, welcome everybody. We appreciate everybody joining. I see a lot of familiar faces from our last couple of weeks of coffee and conversation, and I see a couple new faces as well. So welcome to our Court's Coffee and Conversation. We have every Thursday, same time, same day. But we are super excited today that we have got several people joining us for some really interesting content that I think all of you are going to be interested in hearing. So Pete, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, awesome. Well, I'll just give my welcome to Coffee and Conversation as well. This was started by Tiffany and John Lee and the Court family. It's a way to connect and share ideas and maybe have a cup of coffee, stronger if you of course. But it started out with just a handful of people, and now we literally have like hundreds of people across the country jumping into these conversations every Thursday, sharing ideas. So super exciting. We do try to mix it up, and at the end of the call last week, most of our questions were about opening and reopening and what do we do, and we said, okay, well then that's going to be our topic this week. So that's how we did it. But today we decided, because we do like to mix it up, we got 3 rock stars today going to help carry the load. So let's just jump right into it. Let's go to the next slide. I want to do an introduction and do it properly. So Tony, if you could switch slides. Oh, almost forgot. Now we're going to talk about reopening, right? And I'm going to read this. I want to make sure we're recording and everybody gets this. This information is provided for informational purposes only. Please consult your corporate office team for specific company-specific guidance and review CDC guidance regarding COVID-19. Okay, that was a mouthful. But seriously, guys, this is just ideas. This is a webinar. We're sharing things that we've done. We're not saying go out and you do it. We didn't approve it for you. Get it checked out, okay? So I made sure I covered that. We're going to read that thing again at the end of the webinar to make sure we're covered. So, Tiffany, did you good? Did I get it all? Did I do it right? Yay. Okay, jazz hands for me. Good. Awesome. Well, let's do our first introduction. I can't tell you how cool it is to have Ann come on with us, and we could bring her bio up, Tony. That would be great. I won't read this word for word, but Ann's been in the apartment industry. I mean, this thing says 5 decades. Obviously, you were like born into the industry. She's the former VP of Marketing Education at Lincoln Property Company. She's an advanced facilitator through NAAEI. She's got her CAM, her CAPS, Texas real estate license, certified speaking credentials from the National Speakers Association, which is no small feat. One of the top trainers from Multi-Housing News. She's won multiple Legends Awards. She's co-authored several books, appeared in magazines including Money, Texas Business, Ladies Home Journal. She is awesome. The funny thing I've got to find out before she leaves us, I see your favorite husband. Does that mean you have more than one? I need an answer to that at some point. But ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ann Sadowski to the stage. Ann, yay.
Yay. So, am I on? Because I struggled with this. Yay.
You're good to go.
So I am so excited to be part of this. And in Pete, in answer to your question, my fourth grade school teacher said, keep practicing till you get it right. That wasn't me.
You keep going, Ann.
Anyway, so my fourth grade school teacher said, keep practicing till you get it right. So it took me 4 times.
And he's a winner.
He is a winner.
Love it.
He is a winner. So good morning, everybody. And my brief part of this, and thank you for inviting me, Tony and Pete and everybody. I'm excited about being with you guys today. I've sat through probably 10 webinars and different posts and everything, as you all have. And I made a list about reopening public places for my church, because we're still dealing with how are we going to reopen, when are we going to do this and all this. So I have a very short list. I'm going to just share it with you guys, and then we can take it on, and everyone's going to be talking about this anyway. This was my number 1. Do not make statements that could hold us liable. For example, we have thoroughly cleaned everything and you will be safe.
Right.
Now, that's sort of like saying when you're leasing an apartment, you will be safe on the 3rd floor. So for years, I have practiced this same thing and preached this same thing. If you can't guarantee it, don't say it. And for God's sake, don't put it in writing, okay? Number 2, don't state that we are providing sanitizer and wipes, even though we will. We could run out before everybody arrives. So to suggest, please bring hand sanitizer and wipes for your personal use. Number 3, and I'm sure you guys are going to be talking about this one, do a touch point analysis. Every door, every handle, every toilet handle, every sink handle, every dispenser. Make sure that they're cleaned and wiped down over and over and over. That's critically important. Handrails, we forget about handrails. They also said use EPA regulation disinfectants, vacuum with HEPA filters, and don't just use your regular cleaning crew. For the first time, you need a really trained, educated cleaning crew. And it says to shut off your air conditioner while you're vacuuming. I guess it circulates through that way. Cleaners must wear gloves and masks. But this was interesting. Peroxide is better than alcohol for cleaning your mask and your gloves, because alcohol causes stuff to dry out and crack. Don't use it on your face either. Okay. Avoid complacency. And this is, I think, a big one. And this is sort of where I've gotten. I'm pretty complacent. Randy and I are healthy. We don't know anybody that's had the virus. And it could be like, gee, let's just, get on with our lives. But they made a good point. You must set and do the rules for social distancing. Be polite, be kind. Even when you're having to ask people who are not family or living in the same household to sit further apart. This is a big one. Expect people to get edgy and even confrontational. Well, welcome to our world. We've always had that, okay? So train your team on how to respond. And these are magical words. We are all in this together, and we must do these things for each other type language. And then I said, we already know that hugging and handshaking is out. So people who greet at the front door need to set the tone for that. So words matter, behavior matters, following your own rules matters, and don't get complacent.
Good job. Yay.
All right.
Yay. No, that was great. The first thing that popped into my mind was just the businesses that I go to that I walk in, and it's professionally managed, and they look like they know what they're doing, and they're practicing all these things in a nice, polite manner. Makes me feel more comfortable, and I find myself, I'll go back to that place of business. I've got 4 or 5 that I will not allow my family to go to. I've mentioned it on social media. I won't go there because they're not even trying. So just my 2 cents. So continue to send in chats. Tony, any thoughts or questions? I want to bring Chris in and then we can continue the conversation. Tony, anything from you?
Well, just thank you, Ann, so much. I know that you spend a great deal of time researching, following the latest information, staying extremely current. And I just thank you for your time and your words of wisdom. Thank you.
Well, yeah, and hang on with us because I'm sure we'll have some questions. You can't talk about reopening, right? You can't talk about any of this stuff without having an attorney, right? And I've always thought, attorneys get a bad rap because you don't really need one until you need one. Like some of my best friends were attorneys. I love the individual attorneys, and they always get a bad rap. So Chris, we are so glad that you're here. Chris is the founder and managing partner of the firm of Losack and Brownlee, right? I am, again, not going to read this bio because it is very impressive. But his legal practice focuses primarily on representing national multifamily and single family operators and management firms. He's a certified mediator, which is pretty cool. North Carolina Super Lawyers was originally a rising star, made it to the legal elite. Part of the Super Lawyers on multiple occasions. That's a big deal. Is also on the board of directors for the Apartment Association of North Carolina. Those are all big deals. Chris is a part of our industry. He's a really good guy, and he uses green slime for his hand sanitizer, or at least the color green slime. So, Chris, I'll turn it over to you. What have you got to tell us?
Thanks, Pete. When you're talking about reopening, we actually did a blog post about this last week for our clients. The big deal for multifamily operators is that you forget about what amenity spaces look like, and in the terms of what the law says. You're so used to operating them that it's just a non-thought. Everybody knows what landlord-tenant law provides in regards to maintaining the premises and making sure that the premises are fit and habitable, and all of that is a standard legal practice. But it's been so long since we worried about the amenity spaces that a lot of people, many of my clients, forgot that there's a whole provision of the law in most every state under the landlord-tenant laws that deals with common areas. And it isn't just the actual leased premises that you have a duty towards. Usually your law provides some level of obligation with regard to maintaining amenity spaces. And so going and making decisions about how to reopen your amenities without first talking to your lawyer about, does this plan work? Is this plan going to keep us safe based on what the law obligates us to do, is to me a putting the cart before the horse problem. If you haven't talked to your lawyer and run your plan by your lawyer and asked them to vet it for you to make sure they feel comfortable that it does in fact comport with what your state law requires with regard to amenity spaces, then you're just flying blind. You're taking your best shot and you're hoping that it works and you're hoping that you're safe, but without reviewing it with your counsel's advice, I think you're missing a really great opportunity to make sure to exactly Ann's point, is that you don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. And so putting things in writing and telling people that you're going to reopen and telling them that it's going to be, you're going to keep it as safe as possible, well, that may not be the standard. And so reviewing that is a really key component to reopening. Having your plan vetted by your attorney, to me, is an almost unavoidable necessity. And if you're doing it without that, you're really putting yourself at a disadvantage, because you don't get a second chance, you don't get a free pass. If someone gets sick in your amenity space, they're coming and they're going to bring a load of an army of people behind them. An angry mob will follow, and there won't be really an opportunity for you to fix that. The other piece that I think is, I've talked about in a lot of webinars that I think a lot of people overlook, is the overlay of fair housing in all of this. Remember that just because you are reopening your office, for example, does not mean that everybody who lives in your apartment community will be able to utilize that space. I have a great example, and I love to give it all the time. What if you have a resident who has multiple chemical sensitivity syndrome? Well, they are disabled. They have the rights under the Fair Housing Act to request reasonable accommodations. How do you overlay that with the idea that you're going to now be super sanitizing your office space, which they are entitled to be in? They may need to transact business with your staff in the office, but that may be exposing them to an even greater load of chemical sensitivity causing products than they otherwise would be entitled to. How do you deal with that? If they say, I need to make an accommodation for that, I can't come into the office with all of those chemicals, and you say, well, we can't stop using the chemicals because we need to make sure the space is safe, you're going to have to figure out an accommodation for that. And the answer is that it's not an easy answer. You're going to have to talk to your counsel. How do we deal with this? I told some people, I said, you might have to think about making house calls. You may send your property manager to the resident's apartment instead of them coming to you. You may have to go to them as an accommodation. You've never done that. When's the last time you made a house call to a resident? But in this environment, that may be something that you need to take into account. And things like fair housing and reasonable accommodations are a key additional overlay to the don't just be safe when you reopen, but also be sensitive to the issues. What if you have an elderly resident who can't come to the office to make payment and or has multiple chemical sensitivity, but they also don't have the technological savvy to use the online portal to make their rent payments? You might need to put drop boxes back into your office for the time being so that that person can make a rent payment in person safely. Those are the kinds of accommodation issues that are always out there. And the Fair Housing Act is national and it applies everywhere. And so I think for everybody that's on this call, that's an item that you need to be mindful of. Get your counsel's advice. Make sure you're not giving short shrift to things that could very well be an accommodation request that needs to be addressed. Just because there's a pandemic, just because we've all been acting in unbelievable, unheard of ways for the last 3 months, doesn't mean that the Fair Housing Act went away. And so those sorts of issues, the biggest advice I give people all the time is your lawyer is a very cheap resource compared to what the cost of litigation is if you did it wrong. You may not want to call your lawyer every time. You may not want to get a legal bill every month, but an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, and that is that is a fact when it comes to legal issues like this. In this time, don't skimp on getting good legal advice to make sure you're doing things the best way you can.
I'd like to jump in here if I can, Chris. A lot of for years, we have worked in the training side to get the word safe out of our vocabulary. Even though we have what we used to call security guards, we changed the language to courtesy officer. We've been very, very careful in our training because of the personal liability that Anne already mentioned, because she's an expert in fair housing. And so all of a sudden, the word safe is being made safe. And it's showing up on signage, it's showing up all in email signatures, stay safe. And so, I mean, you can say be well. There are other alternatives to expressing that opinion without using the word safe. And one of my cautionary notes is, as this pandemic has brought the word safe casually back into our world, how much liability do we have? And again, this opinion is your opinion that applies to your clients and does not apply, whatever your answer is, does not apply to them. Every company needs to check with their attorney. But I'm curious about your opinion as it applies to your clients. Will you be advising an alternative word to the word safe, just for avoiding liability?
I haven't had anybody ask me to get to that level of granularity in terms of drafting their notices, but given that in North Carolina, it's easy to reference, but in virtually every state, there is a provision that says you have an obligation to keep the premises safe and habitable. Safe is used in the law all the time, and it's a standard that is hard to quantify. You can't pin it down very well. And it's just like using the word reasonable. A lot of times your actions are required to be reasonable under the circumstances. Well, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and under the law, words like safe and reasonable are used because there isn't any way to quantify them specifically. And so I think if you're telling people that it's going to be safe, you are always inviting yourself to be second guessed or questioned anytime that you fall short of that standard. And so promising safety is never a good idea. Not now, not before, not after. It doesn't have to do with the pandemic at all. It just has to do with the idea of people will read what you write. And to your point, and to Anne's point, anytime you put it in writing, it can and will be used against you in a court of law. So no, I highly recommend my clients always stay away from, to Ann's exact point, always stay away from writing things that sound certain, that could easily be construed as a promise, because they will always fail at some point. There is always a point at which you cannot meet that level of promise, and that's when you get sued and they use your flyer against you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Wow. Can we get some hands for Chris? That was thank you. Because people are going to continue to chat in questions. I want to turn it over to Tony here with a proper introduction, but we're gonna talk about some ideas, and feel free to jump in if you say, well, wait a minute, maybe that idea crossed a line, or maybe you could add something to it. So we appreciate your time, and thank you. Live on the stage, man. I love to introduce Tony. It's like my favorite thing to do. She's an international speaker, a consultant, an author, a comedian. She's inspirational. She's motivational. She's literally, she makes you laugh, but you learn so much. I am a better person for hanging out with Tony. I mean, that's not an intro. I hung out with Tony Blake. I'm smarter, somewhat funnier myself. I just love hanging out with Tony Blake. Ladies and gentlemen, give me some jazz hands. She's here, totally in the house.
Thank you, guys. All right, so over the last week, since the last time we were together, I have been requesting for copies of signage. I wanted staging. I wanted to see the floor stickers, the curb signs, the social media posts, and I've attempted to cover all of the logos. But I will say that if you put it in a public space, it's possible that I found it and included it in this presentation. And so let's take a look at what I found. This was sent in to me. Actually, this does have H.H. Hunt on it, but this is a kudos to them. We had a court person that was talking to me about the fact that the properties were not even dealing with their COVID. Is there an echo somewhere? I'm not sure. Anyway, but this company has actually put a whole link on their website to show everything they're dealing with COVID-19. And they even have an FAQ. And it's so fantastic. How can I view an apartment without visiting the office in person? I mean, they've literally listed all the information. And I think that is jazz hands for H.H. Hunt. I think they did an amazing job. Michelle Childers was a great resource for me. She did an hour and 15-minute webinar for the Greater Alabama Apartment, or was it Greater Birmingham Apartment Association, where she's real active in that state. And I think it's very important that we first mention our service teams. Our service teams are frontline. We need to make sure as we're reopening, and maybe now you're starting to go to some of those basic requests, that we protect our teams. And so she sent me this great image of all this wonderful gear that is available for your service teams. Multifamily Insider did a survey, and I pulled a couple of data points out of her slides. One said, when do you plan to reopen your leasing office? And the other question was, when do you plan to reopen your amenities? And you can see that people are making decisions somewhere between May 1st and June 1st. And you've got 14.8% on the leasing, still waiting for more info, and 22.2% waiting for more info on the amenities. I saw a post requesting, or someone saying about Colorado, where I live, and there was somebody who came back and said that the governor has clearly asked that the public pools not be opened. And then in a conversation with Michelle, I learned that in the state of Georgia, that the apartment association successfully was able to get the governor to make an exception for and separate out the amenity packages when it comes to the apartment associations or the apartments. But most importantly, you should check with the proper guidelines. So I did find this multistate.us that has the COVID state reopening guidelines for multi-states, and even something from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce that has a state-by-state business reopening guideline where they've collected that information and put it available to you. The question was asked, does your company have a phased reopening plan checklist, and 66.7% of people are working on it. And so, as Chris suggested and Ann suggested, you got great advice today on some of the things that should be a part of that plan as you're working that out. I have a group, if you enjoy show and tell, called Totally Tony Tell All on Facebook. And since COVID started, I've been inviting people into that creative collaborative space to just share and show you care. And if you want to see and feel a huge sense of pride in the amazing, great work that's happening in the field, that is a great place to go see and collaborate. And there's almost 1,000 people at that group right now. It's private, but my teams are really good about watching for people's requests to join. So go to Facebook and look for Totally Tony Tell All. Now, I created 2 signs. And this sign, I almost want to bring Ann back in. I did recommend that they list the cleaning process that they're using. I feel like we should supply the masks and the gloves. And I do believe that we need to make a commitment to that. I also feel like we need to make a list of what our cleaning plan is. And, and again, we now have an attorney and we have Ann here present to take a look at this idea. But I think that people want to know what your plan is. I realize there is a liability in publicly putting that plan forward. But I also think, like Pete, you went into the dentist's office and the plan that they had was not obvious and it gave you a lack of confidence. So I think somewhere in between legal liability and customer confidence, there needs to be a way for us to communicate that we are concerned and that this is an issue and that we are following the CDC guidelines. And so these are suggestions. And I have these are both available to pull down and print down off of the group. But again, these need to be looked at by your attorney. Here was a company that's actually doing the daily temperature log. And this is a sample of what their temperature log looked like. And so I will say that without having a healthcare professional be in charge of any kind of a medical procedure, that we should talk to our attorneys about the liability of that. I do think that this is a great idea for our teams. But again, I think the attorney needs to be advised. And then I think we should also bring in the advice of a healthcare professional. But here's an example of a company that is actually created a log. We're opening new signage is going onto the leasing doors. And now a lot of stickers are going on the floors. And so here's a great happy, we're opening with an accent mark. The leasing center is open. Please come in with a language. And then thank you for practicing social distancing on the floor. Here is a company that, I didn't get all the logos. So this one does say staying safe together. We've missed you on the office door. I think that's really good. Here is a company that actually put a social image up of the gloves and the masks that they have available in the office. This is handmade masks that a resident brought in and gave to the teams in all those beautiful colors. And I tell you, the things that residents have been doing, they recognize the work that the teams are doing in the field. I don't have all the images here, but they're at the group. Somebody delivered that, what's that ice cream that has the M on it, has the melted chocolate. It's like really good ice cream. And they put 2 of those with a note that said, thank you by the door for the management team. Here is another.
Tony.
Yes.
Tony, can I ask a question? Can we go back a slide? And I'd love for Chris or Ann to jump in. I've seen several mentions of the gloves and the masks, and even your commitment to clean has it right on there. And I love the commitment to clean. On stating that, providing those, what do you think? I mean, if you run out, is that a problem?
Yeah, I mean, I think the way I would approach it is that Ann makes a good point that you don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. So you don't want to tell people that we will always have gloves, if you might have a supply problem. But that doesn't mean you couldn't craft a notice that says, if you don't see gloves here, please come to us and we will find you some. Like, always have a supply, an emergency supply, backup, something like that. I think if you look at the law and you find out that the law says you've got an obligation to keep your amenity spaces safe for use, then I think providing gloves and providing sanitizer is a great idea. It's a great way to prove that you're doing it. It's a great way to show that you're meeting the standard. People's failure to use things that are provided is not part of your obligation. So to me, there's definite value in having the materials. But to Ann's point, you got to be committed to having them and not running out of them, because if you've had it once and that was part of your safety protocol for your amenity space, and then you suddenly don't have them anymore, that could be a problem. So I think you got to just be prepared to be consistent. But yeah, adding safety items is a good idea to me.
So what do you think, Chris, about listing the items the processes that we're doing? Like, my #commitment to clean sign says that we've put an aerosol spray in the spaces, and then it has a list of what we're wiping in between tours, so that we're actually saying this is what we're doing, and then that we're using a CDC approved active ingredient.
Yeah, the idea to me is always, whenever I'm creating a notice, either before or after this pandemic, is still going to be the same. Is it's all a function of what can you execute on. Don't say you're going to do something and not do it. But if you have a plan and you know what your plan is, and you know that your team is going to do this every single time, then writing it down is not a problem. It's all a matter of making sure that you're not writing things that are going to come back to haunt you later. And so that's, back to Ann's point. She's dead on the money. The liability risk comes from saying one thing and doing something less. But if you know that you're going to do it and you have a commitment to it, then writing it down is a good way of establishing what you're doing to stay safe. It's just a double-edged sword. That's all. It's an unavoidable double-edged sword. You do have to ensure consistency. You do have to manage to 100% execution. But when you do that, it is a good way to establish and to have definable proof of the level of commitment you showed to keeping safety at the forefront.
And I think it also, it avoids the assumption that every single thing was wiped down. I think broad statements also put us in liability, but specifically saying this is the 7 items that we're wiping and we're using an aerosol. And I think by saying that and running it through your attorney as a part of your process, I think the customer establishes confidence, and then the teams know exactly how to execute. There's no gray area. This is the plan.
Yeah, it's expectation setting.
Tony, how cool would it be to run your whole day with Chris just in the window, and if I have a question, I just go, "Hey, Chris, what do you think?" That would be
I love that.
And Chris, all day long, you could just be with me.
I'm available to be put on retainer anytime, Pete. Just let me know.
There you go. I love that. I love that. So here's a cleaning schedule with the date, time, and a place for the signature. I really love that. I've seen that in the mall bathroom and different places where there's accountability for the schedule and when it was cleaned. And I don't know that that's a public facing tool, but I do think it's good. And then I really love this sign because it doesn't use the word safe, but yet it mentions the word compliance, which I think is a great piece of language to use right now, and then ends with "thank you, your leasing team." I thought that was really well worded. Here's just some samples of some masks that are being used in the field, and photographs that people sent. I thought this was really cute. They just did the feet print. That does not look 6 feet apart, but maybe that's the little pattern that they want people to follow. But then the other one here again, we have "stay safe." I think that this sign is actually from a retail store. You can see the shopping cart below it and the shelves on either side of it. And what I wanted to point out on this is that I don't think we can copy. Like, I don't think it's a good idea for us to look at what retail is doing and then bring something from retail into multifamily. I think the multifamily plan has to be specific, because people will go and then leave a retail store, but they live with us. And so I wanted to include that because I think that's a good point. I had a couple of stickers that I found from elevators that I thought were good. You know, do your part. And here they've actually put the stickers in the elevator floor, suggesting, because it's small, that people go backside to backside. And I'm not going to say what was with that post, but it had something to do with a gas leak. Anyway, there are a bunch of signs that are being created by suppliers and that are pre-done. A lot of companies are creating their own branded signs. You're starting to see that. And again, that's why we wanted Ann Sadowski and Chris to be here, because we wanted to have that really great filter to put things through whenever we're creating language and making it public. I thought this was really, really great language as well. Please keep social distancing. And again, this refers back to the CDC guidelines. I think anytime we use their language, that we keep ourselves in a good place. I thought this was interesting. Chris, you were talking about bringing back the rent drop. So this, I don't know why this makes me think of a church or something, but the sign is a little hard to read, but here they've blocked it off like you would at a theater entrance, and put the little rent slot out there. So they're definitely still interested in getting their rent. This is a hilarious video where they did "Stop in the Name of Love" as the theme music, and she's got the big wig on. And there's a lot of people that are having fun with it. And this was a boomerang that was super cute. I found in a social site. These are the sneeze guards. Here's a word that I have not used in a long time that a lot of people are going to be looking at. This is my favorite application of it. The reason I like it is because it's temporary. It's not installed. It simply sits on the desk and it's almost invisible. I mean, you can barely see that it's there. So it's non-intrusive, but yet it's helping to create a barrier. I found these for $140.70 at the Interstate Plastics, but there's a ton of different locations where you can get these products. This was a little bit more aggressive, where they literally had plexiglass installed on both sides and framed in by white painted wood. Like, you're definitely not going to have the person that worked at this desk being sneezed on. So, you know, a lot of different applications of plexiglass are being used in multifamily. People are looking to make sure that we keep our leasing efforts going. I found this happy team with actually a human. You can't play the video, but they have people out in the front holding up signs, "Schedule your self-tour today." So people are still marketing apartments, and this community has virtual tours and they're looking to get people. A lot of people are making appointments. I saw a lot of conversation about appointments, and I'm not really sure how this works, but I screenshotted it, that they actually had appointment times. This reminds me of when I order my groceries and I'm able to select the delivery time. And this was on Facebook. So apparently there is a Facebook application that allows you to have people choose an appointment time. And then here's some cool language about how that appointment time works. And some people are limiting their hours for appointments, but they're not limiting the time that they're there to communicate and be on the phone and stuff. Videos are really big right now. People are using a lot of videos. I found a ton of videos on Facebook. Weekly updates. We showed how in the very beginning, people are putting on their actual property website the COVID-19 information and being updated. I saw several companies using weekly updates and making a commitment to letting their residents and their future residents know what's going on. People are using language like modified self-guided tours, and you'll see a ton of people using the approach of scheduling. Here we go again. You must call to set up an appointment. You must be wearing a proper face mask and you must stay 6 feet apart. I kind of like their approach because they're saying to the customer, you have to bring these things. You have to come in and have that available to you. And so that was a sign that was on a door. Here's another, yes, we're open sign looking for a new home. We're here to help you find the perfect new place with your virtual apartment home tours. Lots of virtual, lots of appointments. Here were some questions I thought that we might discuss. Have you or anyone in your home tested positive for COVID-19 or are awaiting test results? How do we deal with asking? Yes.
We're getting some questions coming in, and I thought this is a good transition point. If you don't mind, we'll just ask those
Absolutely,
questions.
absolutely.
The first thing was we had a ton of questions about the signs. So I know you mentioned that suppliers are offering some of those already. Just more about, where for the signs come. Mike, another question was, should they be a little bit more personalized? Some of the signs I've seen seem a little sterile, a little, we should jazz it up a little bit. I like the things that show the team's personality. Like when we say your leasing team, I like to say your leasing team, Bob, Mindy, and Allison,
Right, yeah.
What are your thoughts around that?
Oh, I think personalization is one of the most important aspects today, because here is the thing. There is a whole aspect that is separating us from our customer. And so that connection aspect, how do we bring our personality and our hospitality into this remote space and make sure, and I think personalization is an absolutely brilliant way to do that. I'm doing a remote leasing program that I'm recording next week. And I will tell you that we're putting the photographs of the leasing teams on the staging signs in the self-guided tour apartments that say, call us right now and we'll answer questions with the phone number, and QRs that they can use their camera phone and go right to places where they can find connections with the team. So I think that anywhere that you are able to bring a connection of our humanity and our staff and our team, you're saying put their name on it. Why not put their cute picture on it too? So, I think that's a great idea that we haven't seen on any of the signs so far. But good idea, Pete. Yeah.
Tony, as you're talking, I feel the pressure. I watch Chris, and just everything we say, if Chris nods yes, I go, good, we're okay. I like this is great. This is great. The comments were about people mentioned that they use Calendly to schedule appointments. Calendly. So that's just something that we wanted to get on the recording here. There's lots of different technologies that help you schedule the appointment, but it's called Calendly.
Can you spell it?
The question was about sneeze guards, and it kind of flew by too fast. Where do they get sneeze guards? Is it, what's
honestly,
a resource for that?
There were tons. There were tons. There is multiple approaches to the sneeze guard. And they can be, I really liked the desktop, but honestly, when I Googled it, there is like supplier after supplier after supplier after supplier. However, I would say if you are a member of an affiliate and you are a part of an apartment association, I think it would be greatly appreciated that we go and find out who, as a member of our apartment association, is someone who is supplying that. And I know both Chadwell Supply and it's not Home Depot, it's
HD Supply.
HD Supply have these products. If you go to your apartment association website there's a click, most of them have, that has COVID suppliers, like people that are supplying. Ann mentioned you want to have a professional clean done. That can be found through your local apartment association. And so I love the idea. I know I'm thinking right now, in fact, I'm seeing the face of a supplier that does all the customization and personalized. And so please make sure that when you're looking for resources that you consider the members of your local apartment association.
Maintenance Supply
Go on.
Headquarters is one that was just mentioned. Hey, Pete, really quick. Maintenance Supply Headquarters was mentioned on the chat, so don't forget about them as well. But if you are looking for the Calendly website, it is posted in the chat box. So the website is on there for any of you that want to check that out for scheduling. But I'm going to call out really quick. Patty Woods with Fogelman, I know you're on. We had a question you put in chat that Fogelman is using Facebook to schedule yours. And someone asked where you find that on Facebook twice. So Patty, if you can unmute yourself, if you're still on with us, I would love for you to just tell everyone how to find that on Facebook. That'd be great. Patty, you there?
Is she able to unmute herself, or do you have to do that?
Yeah, she should be able to. John, can you find her and see if she just commented a few minutes ago. If not, we'll ask her and we'll get that out later. Okay,
Yeah.
we can keep going, Tony.
I did take a screenshot. I found the, I thought I heard somebody, I didn't want to walk on them. I did take a screenshot of what it looks like. And I'm imagining at that Thursday, May 28th, that's a pull down menu, that you'd be able to choose a different date. And then those are the times that are available during that date. I am a huge Facebook fan. If you are on this call and you want to make quality decisions about your social media activity, in fact, Tiffany, if you would help me out and put this in the chat, wearesocial.com. Wearesocial.com every single year puts out a data, amazing national and global data that allows you to be able to see the most visited websites globally. And then it also gives you for the United States and then the continental United States and all of that. And Facebook is right at the top. And so I love to see it. I took a lot of screenshots from social media and from Facebook. And I found a lot of people communicating, making appointments, doing their updates. That was curbside. That was Facebook. This was all Facebook, where they're promoting their self-guided tours. These were live physical signs at the property, but there was a whole lot going on in the Facebook world. Other questions, Pete or Tiffany?
I think we're good for now. We'll keep rolling.
So this was from Michelle Childers, and from her PowerPoints, and I thought it was really good. I think all of these are questions that you need to consider, and these are all questions that you need to talk to your attorney about. I mean, this is about planning. Planning is like insurance. It means that you know in advance. So I would say that the frontline people are some of the most, man, I tell you what, I could get really quickly choked up because they are amazing and they have been out there and they've been facing this thing and they've been dealing with everything. And I think it's our job at the executive level to give them the training, to give them the solutions, to give them the signage, to give them the right legal advice, to give them a chance to be prepared when these situations come about. And I think all of these, the temperature, taking the temperature, and then knowing what to do when someone is COVID positive. We're so blessed in Colorado. Our numbers are way down. You know, we've almost really literally gotten rid of the virus. It's just amazing how the work that everybody's done in so many states has saved so many lives. But as we reopen, there's anxiety and there's a lot of questions. And I think that it is our job to help our teams to be prepared.
Awesome.
That's my story, and I'm sticking with it.
The next slide. Oh, okay. Yeah, we're coming to the end. Oh, great. Well, first of all, we had a couple more questions. So
I got the Q&A slide coming up.
mention that we too want to mention that we try to make these things fun and giving away prizes each year. We from a company and friends of ours, friends of mine from Loop and Tie, and I know Samantha, you're out there, so thank you. But we're giving away for the best idea, the best question, and we usually get together as a quick team on a 5-minute call after this, and we pick a couple of winners. And Samantha, are you out there? I just wanted to give you a shout out this week and say thank you.
Hi, yes, I'm here, Pete.
Okay, great. I actually texted me as soon as it pops up. I've heard of Loop and Tie before. How does Loop and Tie work? I don't want to make a commercial. Just how does the darn thing work?
Yeah, it's really easy, and we work with a lot of property management companies and other big companies like NFL teams, Dell, and big companies like that, including law firms. But you basically send somebody an email. You're branding everything to your brand, and you're sending them a collection of gifts. So they get to choose their favorite gift. It's all about choice. So
I got to pick one. I loved it. Thank you, Pete.
It was cool because we sent Tony a gift, right? and we all the emails go, and I don't think you responded the first time. Then you got a follow up, and then you got it. Then you sent a beautiful thank you note back to us. And we communicated. It was a small gift when some event happened, and I know for me it was just too hard to handwrite the personalized note and find those things. What are they called? A stamp. I've heard of those, and do all that. Now I just go to my phone, I click, and I send off this gift, and then you get choice. So again, Samantha, I love it. I love Loop and I love Tie, and you put them together, so all good. We're running out of time, but I got a couple of quick questions. The masks that we wear, are you cool if they're personalized, if they have the smiley face on them or they have the company logo? And Chris, I think yours has your attorney logo on there. What do you think of those, Tony?
I love that. Here's my plan for when I go back on the road. From my lips to Jesus, I get to go back on the road and get back out there loving on you guys again. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make an iron-on of my face. And then I'm gonna iron my own face on my face so that you can't really see the mask. It'll just look like me with my big smile. And I've got plain white cotton ones that have a place for you to put the filter. And I'm going to print off on that iron-on paper my own face, and I'm making my face for my face.
You know what? I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take your face and put it on my face. I'll get more speaker bookings that way. I love it. I love it.
I do think customized is a great idea.
I had a couple of, I saw chat came through commitment. They wanted me to reemphasize. They thought that was brilliant that you branded it. You know, it's like it's something that you can say. We have a commitment to clean, and then you back it up, and then you actually do what you said you were going to do. So that was just a comment that people just love that. Question on communication: just how often, how detailed? The question I got was to be careful not to make it sound like it came from corporate. Right, you know, but communicate to your residents like a real person would communicate.
Well, I mean, I think there has to be both. Okay, so I mean, I think I love all the language that literally emulates the CDC. I think that we need to look intelligent. I think that we need to look conscientious. We need to look compliant. I think that all of that should be face forward. However, like you mentioned, which I thought was such a brilliant idea, is to have that and then have the team photos at the bottom with their names when it says your team. I think where you can put hospitality and personality into it, I think that is a powerful way. Oh, you know what? There's a website called My Sticker Face.
I love that place.
You can absolutely have, and they have big ones. How cute would it be to get the big sticker faces and put your staff sticker face on it? Go to, Tiffany, if you help me out again, I think it is, it's mystickerface.com. I just had an email from them. Yeah, super, super cute. And I've used my sticker face for years. And so I used to give people happy face stickers. And so now I give them my happy face. And it's a sticker, my sticker. Yeah, here they are. I just want to make, because sometimes I've put the words in the wrong order. And if you order,
Tony, I got this text, and it says they want to get sticker faces of Chris so they could always have their attorney around.
oh, that's fun. Listen, Chris,
I cannot imagine anybody wanting to put my face on anything.
oh, Chris, didn't you give me your Bitmoji the last time I was in the Carolinas? And I added your Bitmoji to my Facebook slide, or to my slides in my presentation, because you sponsored, and it was so cute. I loved it. I think I still have your Bitmoji. But I do agree, Pete. I think that there is a combination to be done, which is very professional, very, and I think social, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok gives us a chance to be more playful. But I think in the signage and in the main places that we need to look intelligent, professional, compliant, and make sure our attorney has looked over everything.
Personalized mask, we got a chat question. Does anybody know where you can get those? I saw those on the news, and I don't know. I have to Google it. Anybody know?
Check with your local apartment association. There's almost always a member that does the personalized specialty items, and I would be willing to guarantee that there's a member of your association that can provide that for you.
Yeah, we just got ours yesterday from Custom Ink.
Okay.
Okay, great. Hey, Tony, before we wrap it up, are you doing something like 20 minutes or something? Do you have another webinar? Could you tell us what do you do? I'm dying to know what you're doing.
Okay, so during this crazy time, I've just been trying to look at how I can take my time and make it meaningful. Since I'm not on tour and I'm not out there, how can I be supportive? I want to put my vibe in my tribe, and I just will not go quietly into this good night. And so we purchased a webinar platform where I'm able to do webinars. Last month, I did 10 ways to play in May, and we did Cinco de Mayo parades led by the golf carts decorated, and invited the residents to decorate their cars. And if you did not see the Cinco de Mayo parade, you got to go to Totally Tony Tell All and look at the parades. Just if you go to Totally Tony Tell All, just go down the wall. Just do not stop going down the wall. Just go all the way down the wall, because there's so many amazing shares on that wall. So this month, I'm giving 3 happy tunes in June, and that webinar starts 10:30 Mountain, 12:30 p.m. Eastern. It's free. It's my gift in my Here For You webinar series. And I'm going to do Marilyn Monroe's birthday, which is June 1st. I've got all kinds of movies, Marilyn quotes, all kinds of things for social. Then June 14th is Flag Day. And I'm going to recommend another parade on the property, because tons of Flag Day parades have been canceled. And so people have their flags. Let's give them a chance to fly them and do the parade through the property. You got to go look at the Cinco de Mayo to see how the idea works. And then the 21st is Father's Day. And I have a ton of really great Father's Day ideas. My favorite is this series of sidewalk chalk messages. And so it's kind of like the idea of doing a photo booth. You would have an artist come in and on the sidewalk in front of your property, create these really fun images where the kids lay down and participate in the image and photograph it to send to their father. So it's like a sidewalk chalk photo booth. So if you're looking for some happy tunes in June, join me at my Here For You webinar starting in a little bit.
Hey, Tony, and I put the registration link, and so did John,
Okay.
in the chat box. So if anybody wants to register for today, it is free, like Tony said. And
gift.
the go on and copy and paste the registration link from the chat box so you can register for her thing today.
Hey, Tiffany, we're gonna close it out, but I got to get my radio announcer voice on. This information is provided for informational purposes only, people. Please consult your corporate office team for company-specific guidance and review CDC guidance regarding COVID-19. Do it, people. Call your attorney. This was just to share some ideas to start a conversation. But if you're going to reopen, people, open. Come on, use your marketing skills. Use your put Chris on one shoulder and Ann on the other, and your Tony face on, and get your business open. So thank you for joining Coffee and Conversation. Court team, you guys are the best. Tiffany, John Lee, thank you for all you guys do. We're rocking out. See ya.
Thank you, guys.
Great.
See everybody,
Bye, everybody.
next week for our Coffee and Conversation. Stay tuned. Have a good day.
Bye. Thanks,
guys.
Annie, Chris. Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Tony, Pete, thank you.
See you next week.